is the idea that we are spirits first. And so if you can imagine, in behind every incarnation is a spirit or a soul that is come into this particular simulation for a reason. That the soul, it kind of looks at physical incarnation and is that it sees kind of a unique experience. Is that if you are a part of source, if you can imagine you're a part of source, therefore you are a part of, you have all sorts of godlike powers, if you will, when you're not in incarnation. So as a spirit, there are no rules, there's no boundaries on what you can experience. There is no lack, there is no pain, there is no none of this, right? So I put myself into the mindset of a soul that decides to incarnate here. Why on earth would they do that? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you want? What are we thinking here? And what has been described is that we come here to experience all manner of limitation, all manner of expression that's possible within the 3D environment. So what this implies is that you're not just going to live one lifetime, you're going to live multiple lifetimes. You're going to live in a variety of forms, like bodies. So maybe stunningly beautiful in one body, and then crippled and deformed in another body. And the spirit, believe it or not, thinks this is fascinating to go into an experience like this and to be limited and to have to figure it out, like to have to find his way out. And what the spirit is doing is learning about who they are from the perspective of one that has lost their memory of who they are. So when you come into the body, you don't necessarily, most of us wouldn't remember. Like, it's very dense, very heavy. Our world is all about the stuff of our world. We're our bodies. We're trained that we're our bodies. Our life is very small, very, it's a very small life compared to what you might imagine somebody with unlimited power would be creating for themselves. So you come into these very small lives for the purpose of the experience of forgetting, number one. So it's an experience to forget all about who you are. But the second thing you're in here to do is to find your way out of it. So it's like, why do people go into those mazes, or those rooms where you have to solve puzzles to get out of the room to go to the next room? Why do people do that? They think this is fun. And believe it or not, spirit thinks it's cool and fun to be in here and to have to figure all this out. And even the hardships and even the devastation and the lifetimes of ick and awful that we may go through, spirit thinks this is amazing. But its goal is to go through this very limited life and to remember, eventually to start the journey back to its truth about who it really is. And that's when it starts to move out of its physical orientation. And I think in the Bible, it's called ascension. So your vibration starts to raise as you start to remember, as you start to see yourself more as spirit as opposed to a physical being. And as you start to live more from your heart rather than material needs, wants, ego, that kind of thing. So the journey here is about having the experience of limitation in all of its formats and all of its presentations. It's like Source wants to go into every different perspective to see what it's like to live in that particular perspective, to see what it's like to be, fabulously wealthy in one lifetime and to be extremely poor in another, to have love in one lifetime and to be rejected in another lifetime, to have an incarnation as a prince or as a royal being, and then to live as a pauper. Like, it's like the divine is playing in a reality that for the divine is curious and interesting, because it's like, wow, because under normal circumstances, if you can create anything, which is what Source can do, what would it be like to not know that? And what would your life be like? So Source incarnates in all sorts of limiting perspectives to gain an experience of this reality. And when it has gained sufficient experience, it will begin its journey out and back into an awareness of who it is. And it's this expanded state that it's going after. Like it's like, and I know the feeling, because every time I have a new understanding of life and what we're doing here and everything else, it's like, wow, it's like my brain explodes. It's like this little mini joyful experience on the inside, because it's like another piece of me comes together. It's like Humpty Dumpty, right? And we've been torn apart by our physical lives, and then we find a piece of ourselves and we put that piece back in, and it's like, wow, look at that. And then the next day you find another piece and you go, wow, like, look at that. So it's this journey back to being who we are that eventually starts to consume our focus. And that's the journey of the soul into 3D life.